Thank you very much for allowing me to interview you first. I would just go over a few questions. You can think about the answers, don't worry about the time. We have enough time. I hope you have enough time.
Yeah.
First of all, I wanted to ask you if you could say something about, if that's not too confidential, about your childhood. If you can say something about what is the most memorable moments from your childhood, something which was very impressive.
Well, there's nothing special. I don't know.
Where did you grow? In what place?
Well, I grew up in the Midwest of America in the 50s, so at that time, that was right after the war, there was this big baby boom, and everything in America was just expand, and everything was expand the economy.
That was right after
everything was building up, and that was just around that time was when the talking movies became big, and theaters were being built up all over, and shopping centers, and schools, everything was new, build, everything all over the place. Every time you go someplace that you hadn't been for a couple of months, there'd be a whole bunch of new houses and shopping centers and theaters. So I kind of...
Which town or city were you born in?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. What state is that?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
So I suppose that affected me, that made me, it spoiled me. My parents spoiled me.
Were they well-to-do?
Because they weren't, well, I was middle class, but middle class in America at that time was, compared to any place else in the world, was affluent. So I had pretty much whatever I wanted.
Do you go to school?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I went to school, and at first I liked school when I was a kid, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But then when I got into my teens, I hated it.
Okay. Why did you hate it? What didn't you like about it?
It just didn't seem worthwhile to me.
You were getting... Were you getting on well with your schoolmates?
No, I didn't have many friends.
I
was pretty much a loner. And even from an early age, I started to doubt like I was brought up as a Catholic. And even from an early age, I started to doubt the religion, but I didn't, I was afraid to tell anybody. And pretty much started to doubt everything about the government and parents and everything. So school just seemed to reinforce all the values that I was doubting. So I just didn't like school anymore, which is it didn't have any meaning to me.
Did God mean much to you in your childhood?
In my childhood, yeah, I was a good Catholic. I went to First Communion and confirmation and all that, and I believed in it then. But once I got into my teens, then I just fell away from it. But I kept going to church and all that. Because I was afraid to tell anybody. Like even my friends, everybody thought I was just still a believer, even though I wasn't for years.
Okay.
I never told anybody.
You were very good at faking it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I wasn't real devout. Like I just went through the motions, but I was never an altar boy, and I never said I wanted to be a priest. So I wasn't, didn't fake it to an extreme degree. Like I didn't pretend to be real pious when I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kept going. I still kept going to church, and I was still in a Catholic school.
Mm.
And anything the priest said, I just agreed with. And
Then, how did you proceed with your education?
While I was in my teens, I just wanted to get out of school and go and get a job.
How old were you then?
Well, I
15?
got out of high school in 18, 19.
18.
About 18, 19 years old. And then I got a job. And after doing that for a couple of years, I got fed up with that. The thing is, I just wanted to make enough money to live on, to pay the rent and buy some food and do what I wanted to do. And the first job I got, because the economy was still booming then, they wanted me to work all kinds of overtime, and I wanted to work for a living. I didn't want to live to work.
Okay.
Which was what it seemed like most of the people there, they were glad to get the overtime and make all kinds of extra money. And I didn't want it. I just wanted the 40 hours, and that was it. So I go out and do my own thing.
What kind of job did you get first?
I was in a warehouse.
Mm.
But
Manual
then,
job?
after a couple of years, then I just quit that and went back to school.
Okay.
College.
You wanted to do a degree in?
I didn't want to get a degree, I just wanted knowledge. Because I was always pretty much a bookworm. I liked to read a lot, and I was interested in a lot of different things, so I just wanted to go to school just for the knowledge, just for the education. I wasn't interested in a degree. And by that time, after working for a couple of years, I had a lot of money saved up, because I was still living at home. I still didn't have any rent to pay, didn't have a car.
You were not one of these...
Didn't have any real expensive tape. I didn't spend a lot on anything.
You didn't go...
So I saved up a lot of money. So after a couple of years, then I was able to go to college.
Okay.
And then I still stayed at home with my parents.
You paid for your own fees?
Yeah. Well, because I didn't like school when I was in high school, my grades were pretty low. So when the first college I tried to get into, they wouldn't let me in.
Mm-hmm.
Because my school record was quite poor.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I went to another school that was academically not quite as good, but it was a lot cheaper, so I was able to afford it. And then after being there for a couple of years, then because I was motivated then, I got better grades. And then I was able to get into another college.
Oh, you shifted to another college?
Yeah, then I was able to get into the place that first turned me down.
So what kind of subject did you study?
Yeah, a little everything.
What was your goal? I mean, after you graduated, what did you want to do after?
I didn't really think about it.
Just wanted to finish college?
Yeah, I just wanted to go to college, and I had the money. I didn't have to do anything else.
Mm-hmm. Did you have friends during that time? You were going out?
In my, say around 11, 12, 13, 14, I didn't have many friends. And when I went to high school in 15, 16, 17, 18, it was like a whole different environment, and then I met a lot of different people, and then I made more friends. So then I had more friends. And then when I went to this place where I was working, then I met people too, and I made some more friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a lot of friends, but I had some more. When I was like 18, 19, 20, I had more friends then than I did when I was, say, 14, 15.
And then when in college, you probably got some more friends
Well,
there.
yeah, in college with some more friends too. And then gradually the money ran out. So then what I did for about 10 years, I just went back and forth. I'd get a job for a while, make some money, go back to school. Drop out of school, go back and get another job, make some more money, go back to school. And I did that for about 10 years.
Going back and forth from school
Yeah.
to work, from school to work.
Yeah, I never got a degree.
Oh, you never finished college.
I could have if I, well, there was just a few courses that I could have taken. Like I was always real bad at grammar. It was one of my unfavorite subjects.
Mm.
And I didn't take I never completed the foreign language requirement in college.
Okay.
If I had done that and just taken a couple more courses, I could have gotten a degree.
Mm.
But it didn't mean anything to me.
And I suppose then you met the devotees, or a little later?
Yeah, well, that was late 20s.
What year was
I was
that?
always interested in philosophy, so then when I got into my late 20s, I started. Up until then, I was always completely agnostic.
Mm.
But then in my late 20s, I started becoming a little more interested in religion. And then I started getting interested in Eastern religions.
Were you reading a lot of books then?
Yeah.
What kind of
Well, I was
books?
always open-minded to anything. And I was reading a lot, so then when I started reading about a little more about religion, I became interested in it because I was open to it.
Mm.
And then I started, I guess you could call it spiritual window shopping. Started going to all these groups. Ekankar and Scientology and TM and the Krishnas. And
You went to check out the Krishnas also?
yeah. I never did go to the Moonies. There's one group I never went to. Scientology, I went there once. I think I just went there once and bought some of the books. And just read a little bit, and then I wasn't interested. And then TM I was a little more interested because then I was interested in the Bhagavad Gita. So I got into TM and I got the Maharishi initiation. So I did that. While I was doing that, still when I met the devotees. So I was interested in Bhagavad Gita, and then so when I went to the devotees, like the first time I went to a temple, I went there for to hear Bhagavad Gita class.
Was that your very first contact with devotees?
No, the first contact I think was I met a devotee on the street, and he gave me. I didn't have much money on me, and I needed it all for buying something. And he could see I was told him I was doing TM, and I was interested in Eastern religion, and so he could see I was somewhat interested. So he gave me BTG for free.
Mm.
And I read that, and it made a lot of sense.
Mm.
Like they talked about a change of Veda. The first issue I ever looked at, it talked about a change of Veda Tantra. And it really made sense to me. So from then on, I just got more and more interested. But I never went to a temple. A couple of times I met devotees on a campus or on the street. But then finally, when I was about 30, I went to a temple. First time I went just to hear the Bhagavad Gita class.
What year was that, do you remember?
60... No, 1975.
75.
Yeah,
So when were you born?
44.
44.
So that was, well, I was
31.
born in December.
So you were 30 years, nearly
So I was almost
31.
31. That was September 75.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for Bhagavad Gita class, and after the class they gave me some prasad. It was all devotees, it was just me and devotees.
Which temple was that?
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Small temple, a dozen and a half devotees. So I was the only one there in Western clothing, so I felt a little bit out of place. And, but then they invited me back, they said I should come back on a Sunday because they had the feast, and they said more Western people would be there, and I wouldn't feel so out of place. So I went back. I had the Sunday feast, and then after that I started going every Sunday. Mostly for the Sunday feast, well, for the Bhagadatta class too.
Was the temple
And then I
near?
started buying books, and
Was the temple near where you lived, or?
well, it wasn't too far. I took a bus. Sometimes I walked. I mean, it's maybe a few miles, reasonably close. It wasn't like 50 miles away or anything like that. Same city. So then I kept going here and started going every Sunday. And I just kept getting more and more interested, and then eventually I started going during the week, and one day I went from Uncle Arctic. And then I was reading books, I just kept getting more and more interested, and then finally one time I was there and there was a bus party, a Radha Manor bus party. So they talked me into going with them. So I went out with them for a couple of weeks. But I didn't really like it, it still wasn't, it was just too much. Because I wanted a lot of time to be able to sit down and read and chant, and I didn't. On the bus, I didn't. If you looked at a book, you were in Maya. Just work, and I did that for a couple of weeks, so then when the bus came back to the temple, I just, forget it, and I went back home. But I still kept coming back to the temple every week for Sundays.
Okay.
And I talked to the devotees, and then
When did you?
so then I decided to try it again, but on a farm, because I thought a farm would be a little more relaxed mood. Which it was to some extent, but it was still a lot of work. So I stayed on the farm for 2 weeks. Then I left again, went back home again, but I still kept coming to the temple. The first time I went to the temple was September, so say maybe November I went out on the bus. Then I went on the farm maybe December, January, I don't remember exactly.
Same year.
Well, January '76 roughly, maybe February.
Did you ever meet
Maybe
Prabhupada?
March. Well, that came later. So then, I just kept getting more and more into it, and more. Well, my money was running out too. Krishna was pushing me. So then, say about March, April, I decided to try moving in full time. So then it must have been about May '76. I moved in with the intention then of staying. Like when I went on the bus, my intention was just to try it for a couple of weeks, which is what I did. And devotees thought, that's it, he's going to stay. And then when I left, some of them got heavy. You can't leave. The same thing when I went to the temple the first time for a couple of weeks. My intention was just to stay for a couple of weeks.
The farm?
No, the temple. Yeah, the farm too. My intention was just to stay for a couple of weeks. And even the temple, sometimes I come and stay for a few days and come and go. But so then, anyways, eventually around May, must have been about April, May '76. My money was almost completely out by then. So Krishna didn't give me any choice. And then I decided to move in with the intention of staying, which I did. So then must have been about June of '76, Prabhupada was in America, and he came to Detroit, which was maybe, 400 or 500 miles away. But it was a small temple, say a dozen and a half devotees, according to deities, more like we have here. So they took the they put the deities in a van and a couple of cars, and everybody, the whole temple just went to Detroit. Just closed the temple down for a couple of weeks. So they had the deities, and they could keep on doing offerings every day. And there was some people there in St. Louis that were favorable that they came and checked our mail every day. And looked at make sure the temple wasn't broken into or anything. So then we went for about a week or so, I can't remember exactly. But then I saw Prabhupada. But I couldn't get close to him because he was like, I was just a bhakta. And all the older devotees and the sannyasis were around. And that was the only time I got to see him.
Mm.
And then I got initiated the next year, but then he wasn't there for the initiation because it was a small temple, and by that time he was quite sick.
Mm.
So it was done through the mail. And the beads went through the mail.
Mm.
So I never got to be alone with him or talk with him or anything, or at least I saw him. And he came down and gave class in the mornings. So I saw him when he came to the airport, and then saw him give class a few times. Then every morning after class he'd give out cookies, and there was once I got close enough to get a cookie from him.
How did you feel about it? Were you shy then?
Yeah, probably. I only got. I was pretty shy. I tried to. It was difficult to get close to him, even to get a cookie, even though he was giving them out to everybody. It was still difficult because there was so many. There was hundreds of devotees from all over the country, so it was hard to get close to him. And then, but I did manage once.
So how's...
And then a few times too, they had somebody brought out the Maha. They had the plate that he'd eaten from, and then he gave it away. So I got that a few times.
What kind
So
of...
then from there we went back to St. Louis, and then I was there until, say, another, say about 9 months after that, then I got initiated. I think March of '77.
What was your service then?
Just cleaning, sweeping the temple, painting the floors, washing pots, cutting up vegetables, working in the kitchen. I was in the temple most of the time. Which is all the kind of things that bhaktas usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept on doing like that pretty much until I got second initiation. That was after Prabhupada left.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became pujari, so that's what I've been doing ever since.
In the same temple?
No. I was in, the temple was having financial difficulties, so Radha came in and took over the temple, the bus party. And then I stayed there for a while, and then in I got initiated March '77, so then it must have been about June, July. Maybe August. I don't know, July, August, somewhere around there, '77. Because it was a Radha Damodar. we all went to New York for the Rath Yatra, which Prabhupada wasn't there in 77. He was too sick. So then after the Rath Yatra, all the buses, the Radha parties got together and shifted everybody around. And I went, so then they sent me to a different city, Louisville. And I was there for, I don't know, about 4 months. And I didn't really like it, so I left. Blooped. So one time I blooped, and ever since I moved in with the intention of staying, the only time I ever left was then. That was at the end of 77, so then I just went back home just for a couple of weeks, and then I went to the Chicago temple. Because I still wanted to stay in the movement. Things I didn't like in Louisville. But I still wanted to be a devotee and stay in the movement, so I went to Chicago. And then I was there for 2 years, and then I got sent here.
From Chicago too?
Yeah, I was in Chicago 78, 79, and then at the end of 79, I came here. And I've been here ever since.
How do you remember the manner when you came first? Here.
Well, at the time I didn't really know what the manor was. I didn't know the history and how important it was, how much Prabhupada liked it, and George Harrison donated it and all that. I didn't know anything about it. It was just another temple. So, to me it was pretty much just like, it's pretty much the same as it had been in Chicago. There's nothing different. Because even they had the same service, pujari just kept doing the same thing.
Your service here was also serving the ladies?
Yeah. When I first came, they put me on maintenance. I was out here in the front of the building, climbing up a ladder, cleaning off the building, scrubbing off the building with a wire brush. But then it was the Christmas Marathon, and one of the pujaris, they wanted him to drive a truck around the country with books, delivering books to all the devotees in different places in the country. So they needed somebody to replace him as a pujari, so I was a pujari from Chicago, so they put me on the altar then. But I did maintenance for about a week. When I first came, they didn't know what. They didn't really have anything planned for me, specific. But then after a week, they needed a pujari, because it was the Christmas Marathon. So then, that's what I've been doing since.
'79, that's when you began.
Yeah, so
Pujari
December 79, so
it's nearly
next week will be my anniversary.
30 years.
Well, 27. It's the first week of December, so I'll say it's 27 years now.
It will be 30 years since you came next year. If you
Well,
want.
it's 27.
No,
It's
no,
27 right
no,
now.
in 79, yeah.
79, 2006.
Yeah. What do you remember from being here at the manor? Anything? What was your impression of the manor after you've been here for a while? You liked staying here?
Well, after a while, when I started learning more about it, and about how Prabhupada had been here so much, I appreciated it a bit more. Felt more privileged to be able to be here. It's the last temple that Prabhupada came to.
Mm.
The last time he came there. It was the only temple. Well, he went to Solo Street too, but this was the only temple that he came to that he stayed for a few days. And it was a very special place. And then he was here. Previously, he stayed here more than almost any. There was only like a half dozen places in the world he stayed more than here, like Los Angeles, moving down. Outside of India, he stayed here more than almost any place in the world. So it's a very special place. Why he came here that last time, I don't think nobody seems to know.
As far as I understand, he wanted to go back to America.
Oh yeah, he was doing that, but
Do a tour and then establish Varnashram. Let me do some. And then you were doing a pujari. Did you ever dress the deity? So you've been always doing this backup pujari service.
well, I've dressed the little deities.
Gorni Thai.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first came, I was dressing Gorni. There was another set of Gorni Thai deities that aren't here anymore. I was dressing them every day.
You had any friends while staying here at the manor? Devotee friends? You had a deeper relationship with?
No real deep relationship. I mean, some people naturally just get along better than with others. Especially because as a pujari too, you're pretty much limited with how much you can, how much time you can spend with anybody other than pujaris.